Story 1, The Gas Station Stranger. It was just after midnight when this happened. I was driving home from a late shift, exhausted, running on fumes, literally. The fuel gauge in my old Honda was blinking red, and the highway stretched endlessly into the dark. There was one gas station out there. One I'd always thought looked a little too quiet. Still, I pulled in. The fluorescent lights above the pumps buzzed and flickered, casting long, shaky shadows across the concrete. The air felt colder here, like the night had teeth. Inside the little convenience store, I could see the cashier slumped behind the counter, staring at his phone. It felt normal enough. Ordinary. Until it wasn't. I started pumping gas, trying to shake the unease that crawled up my spine. The sound of fuel rushing into the tank should have been comforting. Instead, I felt exposed. That's when I noticed him. On the other side of the pump was a man, mid-40s, pale, wearing a faded blue hoodie. At first, he looked like any other late-night customer. But then I realized something strange. He was smiling at me. Not a polite nod. Not a quick glance. Just smiling. His eyes locked on mine, unblinking. And his lips never moved. The grin stretched across his face like it had been carved there. I told myself not to freak out. Maybe he was drunk. Maybe he was high. Maybe I just looked ridiculous fumbling with the gas nozzle and he found it funny. But then he tilted his head. Slowly. Deliberately. Like a predator sizing up prey. I glanced toward the cashier inside. Still glued to his phone. No help there. The man took a step closer, circling the pump. My chest tightened. "Can I help you?" I called out, trying to sound braver than I felt. He didn't answer. His grin never faltered. Instead, he whispered something. I couldn't hear it, not over the hum of the lights and the click of the pump. But I saw his throat move. Then I heard it. A voice. Except it wasn't his voice. The words came from behind me. I spun around so fast I nearly dropped the nozzle. But there was no one there. Just the empty highway stretching into the dark. When I turned back, the man was closer. Too close. I could see his teeth now. Perfectly white. Too white. "Do you know what time it is?" he asked suddenly, his voice sharp, cutting through the night. I opened my mouth but nothing came out. My watch said 12:17 a.m. But I didn't think that was the answer he wanted. Before I could respond, he whispered again. And again the sound came from behind me. Clearer this time. Like someone breathing against my ear. "Don't let him leave." My whole body went cold. I yanked the nozzle out, spilling gas onto my shoes. My hands were shaking so badly I nearly dropped it. The man's grin widened. His head cocked further to the side, unnatural, like his neck could bend beyond human limits. "You heard her," he said softly. "She said don't let me leave." I didn't know who her was. I didn't want to know. My instinct screamed at me, "Get in the car." Drive. No. I fumbled for my keys, eyes darting between him and the glass door of the convenience store. Should I run inside and beg the cashier for help? Or was that exactly what this man wanted? When I finally slid into my car, I locked the doors instantly. The man hadn't moved. At least, I thought he hadn't. Then I noticed something in the reflection of my side mirror. He was standing behind my car. Perfectly still. His grin glowing white in the flickering light. And then he blinked. But in the mirror, he didn't. That broke me. I slammed the car into drive and tore out of the station, tires screeching. My heart pounded in my ears, drowning out everything else. But even as the gas station lights shrank in the distance, I couldn't shake the feeling that someone was still whispering. Not from behind me this time. From inside the car. I didn't look in the rearview mirror again. I drove straight home, parked 2 blocks away and sat there in the dark, trembling, trying to convince myself it was over. That it was just some crazy guy messing with me. But when I finally got the courage to step out, I noticed something that made my stomach twist. On the back bumper of my car, traced through the dust, were 2 words. Too late. And that's when I realized, the whisper I heard in my car wasn't his. Story 2, The Office Elevator. I used to think staying late at work was harmless. Quiet halls, empty desks, a chance to catch up without the constant buzz of coworkers. But now, I can't step into an elevator without my chest tightening. Because one night, I rode it somewhere I was never supposed to go. It was a Tuesday. The office was dead quiet by the time I packed up my laptop. Past 11 p.m., I think. The fluorescent lights hummed above, making the whole floor feel hollow. I remember how the air smelled stale like old coffee and printer ink. I walked down the hall toward the elevator, heels clicking against the tiles. My reflection followed me in the darkened glass windows. Everything felt normal. Until I hit the elevator button. The light above it didn't glow at first. I pressed again. Finally, a soft ding. The doors slid open. Inside, the mirrors reflected me on all sides, infinite versions of myself standing under the buzzing lights. I stepped in. Hit the button for the lobby. The doors closed. And then, they didn't open again. At first, I thought it was just slow. Old building, old systems, nothing unusual. I even checked my phone. No service, but that wasn't surprising underground. But the elevator kept moving. Past the lobby. Past the basement. The floor numbers on the display flickered. 0-1-2. Then they stopped showing numbers at all. Just a blank red glow. My stomach flipped as the elevator jolted hard. Finally, with a groan of metal, it stopped. The doors opened. It wasn't the lobby. It wasn't the basement. The walls were painted a sickly green. The lights overhead flickered like dying candles. And the hallway stretched farther than it should have. Endless. There was no sign. No exit. No people. Just that humming light. I stared out, frozen. My heart told me to shut the doors and ride back up. But before I could, I heard footsteps. Slow. Dragging. Coming closer. Hello. I called out, instantly regretting it. The footsteps stopped. For a moment there was silence. My reflection in the mirrored elevator walls seemed to lean closer, like even they were waiting. Then a voice answered. A man's voice. Rough. Too close. But the hallway was empty. You shouldn't be here. My skin crawled. I stabbed the door close button over and over. The panels slid shut inch by inch, slower than I'd ever seen. But before they fully closed, a hand shot out. Vene. Fingers too long. It pressed against the door like glass, smearing something dark across the metal. I stumbled back, my spine slamming against the mirror. The doors finally clamped shut. But the hand wasn't gone. It was inside. Pressed flat against the mirrored wall, right beside my head. I couldn't breathe. Couldn't move. My own reflection stared back at me wide-eyed, but there was no hand in the glass. Only on the real wall. I smacked the emergency button. Nothing. The alarm was dead. The elevator lurched again, shooting upward, faster this time. The hand dragged along the wall, leaving streaks like wet paint. When the elevator stopped, the doors opened, and I was back in the lobby. Everything looked normal again. The security guard was at his desk, sipping coffee, barely glancing up as I staggered out, pale and shaking. I didn't tell him what happened. How could I? But I didn't take the elevator again. For weeks, I forced myself up and down the stairs no matter how many flights. Until the night I saw it again. Not in the building. Not even in an elevator. I was in my bathroom brushing my teeth when the mirror fogged from the hot water. And there it was. A pale veiny hand. Pressed flat against the glass. And that's when I realized, I never left that elevator. Story 3, the school janitor. I swear I locked every classroom door. So who opened the one behind me? When I tell people I worked as a night janitor at a high school, they usually laugh. What's the scariest thing you saw? Kids' homework? But they don't understand. Schools are different at night. The halls stretch longer. The lockers hum like they're holding secrets. And every shadow feels like it's waiting for you to notice it. I only lasted 3 weeks on that job. Because something was waiting for me. The night started like any other. The building emptied around 9 p.m., teachers heading out with their briefcases and backpacks, waving half-heartedly at me as I pushed my cart down the hall. The air smelled of bleach, pencil shavings, and cafeteria grease. I had my headphones in, half listening to a podcast, half listening for trouble. They told me it would be easy. Mop floors, empty trash, lock the classrooms. That's it. But around midnight, the halls grew too quiet. Even with my music on, I could hear it. That low hum, like static on an old TV. I was on the 3rd floor when I noticed the first locked door had been opened. Room 312. I knew I'd secured it earlier. Double-checked it even. Now it was cracked open. The lights inside flickered faintly. I turned off my headphones. My cart wheels squeaked against the tiles as I inched forward. Hello? My voice echoed. No answer. I pushed the door open. Inside, the desks were all turned, facing the back wall. Not the chalkboard. Not the teacher's desk. The wall. And written across it in black marker were 3 words. Don't turn around. My breath hitched. The lights buzzed overhead, strobing. I wanted to bolt, but my legs locked in place. That's when I heard it. A chair scraping slowly behind me. Someone moving a desk. In the hallway. But when I finally forced myself to turn, the corridor was empty. Only my cart. Only silence. I shut the classroom door tight and hurried back down to the 2nd floor. I kept telling myself it was a prank. Kids sneaking in, teachers pulling a joke on the janitor. But the unease didn't go away. Every corner I turned, I felt someone ducking just out of sight. The static hum was everywhere now, buzzing in the pipes, in the lockers, in my own skull. And then, I saw him. At the end of the hall stood a man. Not a teacher. Not a kid. Tall. Thin. Dressed in what looked like an old janitor's uniform. Faded blue, stained with dark blotches. His cap pulled low. He wasn't moving. Just standing. Watching me. Hey. I shouted, trying to sound braver than I felt. You can't be here. He didn't answer. He just tilted his head like he was studying me. Then the lights flickered. And when they came back, he was gone. I bolted down the stairs, nearly tipping my cart. My hands shook so bad I almost dropped my keys. I reached the main office, ready to call security. But the phone lines were dead. Not just one, all of them. And taped to the receiver was a yellow sticky note. Scrawled in messy black ink. Don't lock the doors. My heart sank. Because I'd already locked half the school. I couldn't stop picturing that tall figure trapped inside with me. I needed to get out. No. I left the cart behind and sprinted for the front doors. My keys fumbled in my sweaty hands, jingling too loud. But when I shoved them into the lock, it wouldn't turn. The door wasn't just locked. It was jammed. Something scratched from the other side. Long, slow claws dragging down the glass. I backed away, gasping. My footsteps echoed across the lobby. Then I heard them. Dozens of footsteps. Coming from the halls I'd just left. Not running. Not rushing. Just walking. Steady. In sync. I turned toward the sound. And saw them. Every classroom door was open now. And figures stood in each doorway. Not kids. Not teachers. All of them wore janitor uniforms. All of them motionless, heads tilted just like the man I'd seen. Every one of them watching me. The lights snapped off. The hum swallowed everything. And in that darkness I felt them moving closer. Footsteps circling. Breathing against my neck. Keys jingling in the dark. I don't remember how I got out. The next thing I knew, I was standing in the parking lot, my cart still upstairs, my keys gone. I quit the next morning. Didn't even go back for my last paycheck. But sometimes when I walk past the school at night, I see a figure standing at the window. Tall, thin, cap pulled low, watching. And that's when I realized, maybe I wasn't the janitor. Maybe I was the intruder. Story 4, the passenger. I checked my rearview mirror, and the passenger seat was empty. I used to drive rideshare on weekends for extra cash. Most nights were boring, drunk college kids, tired business travelers, awkward small talk. But one ride nearly broke me. It started around midnight. The request came in from an empty stretch of road just outside the city. Pick up, Darla. I almost declined. Who calls a ride from the middle of nowhere? But the app paid extra for long trips and my tank was full. So I accepted. When I pulled up, the street was dark. Not even a porch light or a gas station sign. Just a single figure standing under a flickering street lamp. A woman, mid-30s maybe, wearing a pale dress that didn't match the weather. She slid into the back seat without a word. The air instantly grew colder, like someone had opened a freezer. Darla? I asked, glancing at the app. She nodded slowly. The library. Her voice was barely a whisper. I thought it was strange. The library was closed. But I didn't argue. I just started driving. The ride was silent at first. Too silent. No phone scrolling. No nervous tapping. Just breathing. I checked the rear view. She was staring out the window, her reflection caught in the glass. Only, when I blinked, her reflection didn't move with her. Her head turned. The reflection didn't. I nearly swerved off the road. When I looked again, everything seemed normal. I tried small talk. Busy night? Nothing. You work at the library? Silence. But then, suddenly she spoke. My boyfriend, he's abusive. He's following me. Her eyes filled with tears. Please. Just don't take the main road. He'll see me. Something about the way she said it made my skin crawl. I nodded. I took a side street. That's when she started to cry harder. Not quiet tears. Full broken sobs. I wanted to comfort her, but every instinct screamed at me to keep my hands on the wheel. We drove past an apartment complex. Police lights flashed in the distance. Darla ducked low in the seat. They're looking for me, she whispered. But I didn't do anything. It was him. I tightened my grip on the wheel. The police weren't looking for her boyfriend. They were looking for her. The hum of the engine filled the silence. My heart pounded. I glanced in the mirror again. Her seat was empty. The door hadn't opened. No sound. No weight shift. Just empty. I slammed the brakes, spinning around in my seat. The car was empty. But in the reflection of the passenger window, she was still sitting there. I scrambled out of the car, gasping in the cold air. My headlights lit up the road, but no one stood there. I forced myself back inside, trembling. The app was still running. Passenger on board. The seatbelt indicator glowed red, like someone was sitting buckled in. And then, a voice whispered right next to my ear. Keep driving. I don't remember much of the trip after that. My vision blurred. My ears rang. Every mile felt like a nightmare I couldn't wake from. When I finally pulled up to the library, the building loomed dark and abandoned. The back door clicked open. Cold air rushed in. I didn't look. I couldn't. But I swear I felt fingers brush against my shoulder as she stepped out. The door slammed shut. I floored it, speeding away, heart ready to explode. When I got home, I checked the ride history. No record of Darla. No trip logged. No payment. Just nothing. Like it never happened. But I know it did. Because sometimes when I drive at night, the seatbelt light flicks on by itself. And in the mirror, just for a second, I see her reflection in the glass. And that's when I realized, the passenger never left my car. People always ask me where true horror lives. They think it's in the movies. In haunted mansions, in cursed forests, in creatures with glowing red eyes. But they're wrong. Horror doesn't hide in shadows. It hides in everyday places. A gas station on a rainy night. An office elevator where the reflection doesn't match. A school hallway after dark. The back seat of your own car. Places you pass every day without thinking. Until the moment you realize, you're not alone. The stranger at the pump. The neighbor behind the blinds. The janitor standing too still at the end of the hall. The passenger who vanishes but still whispers, keep driving. They're not monsters. They're not ghosts. They're worse. They're people. People who smile when you're looking, and watch when you're not. People who move the second the lights flicker. People who slip inside your life when you least expect it. And the truth is, once they find you, they never really leave. Because evil doesn't need the dark. It doesn't need the dead. Evil walks beside us. Every day. It doesn't hide in shadows. It hides in people we see every day. So tell me, who's standing behind you right now?